恭请大德神定，为知法会集一切众生，听转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生活死，离苦得乐，度证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo, sorry, excuse me. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmiao sanputoche. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, medicine master, Buddha. 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 Medicine master does come one. 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 Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good knowing advisors, that means all of you, welcome. This is today we are, let me see, class 101 or 102? 102. Yes, we are class 102. Okay, let me share my screen. And while I'm getting ready, I need to clear my throat. Does anyone have any questions? Anyone? So while waiting for the time just now, there were a few of us, and I'm just saying that, you know, if whenever I ask Malaysians or Singaporeans if you have any questions, no one says anything. No one has any question. And then Ron joined, And I said, well, if this was the US or California, or there was anyone from there, they would definitely have a question. And guess what? Ron had a question. Okay, so you all must be more like Ron. Okay, so what we're going to do today, we're going to have a really quick recap of what we did last week. And then we're going to look into what I promised you based on the questions that you had, which is the protection of spirits. How do you get the protection of spirits? And then my auntie had a question about pulling of weeds and worship of Tatokong, or how you say, earth spirits, or spirits or gods. We're going to look at how we can get the protection of the yakshas. And then we're going to look at what it all means. All right. So once you know, but what does it actually mean? How do we use that in our everyday lives? So let me see. Carrie says, may I know if we have taken refuge and one precept during that period, how do we do it if we decide to take 2 or more precepts in later years? Okay. Carrie, remind me, we'll address that towards the end of class. Thank you. Okay, so just a quick recap from last week. All right, the Buddha talked about right intention, and why right intention is important because it's the whole difference between creating merit and blessings. So merit takes you out of samsara, it takes you out of, leads you away from suffering, whereas blessings may give you a good life together with some suffering. You can't totally escape from suffering, but it just brings you back to birth and death again and again and again. All right. So right intention is anything that you do in your heart or in your wish, or when you make a vow, or the reason you do that thing is you do it because of renunciation. That means you do it to be less greedy. You do it to give away things. You do it to have less attachment. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the intention of goodwill. You want to make people happy. You want to benefit other people, not just people, but living beings. Okay, you only have goodness or loving kindness towards them. And number three, the intention of harmlessness. That can be short term, as for to make them happy right now. When you give, there's no animosity. It can also be long term, to lead people to end of suffering. If you have the heart of a bodhisattva, if you want to develop great compassion. Okay, so right intention is renunciation, goodwill, or loving kindness, and harmlessness. All right. Okay. So now let's go to the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra, which is the sutra we are all investigating right now. So this part we haven't come to yet, but I'm going to introduce it to you right now, since it's within the same topic. So I've called this the protection of yakshas. Why? Because it's literally how you get the protection of yakshas. So I'll just read from the sutra. It says, moreover, Ananda, this is the Buddha speaking to Ananda. It says, King Yama keeps track of all the karmic records of all the inhabitants in the world. If there are beings who fail to show filial respect to their parents, who commit the 5 heinous acts, who revile the 3 jewels or the triple jewel, who destroy the laws of the country, or who violate the precept of truthfulness, then Yama, the king of justice, examines and punishes them according to the severity of their offenses. So King Yama, all right, I know I promised to talk to you about yakshas, but this is King Yama right now, but it's going to lead to that, all right? King Yama is in Taoism, he has another name, I think. He's the judge. When you die, okay, as depending on your karma and what path it takes you, you could be taken to a place where you are judged based on your past deeds, the things that you have done. And when you are at that state, okay, when you're at that state, you don't have your mind to protect you. You don't have your false thinking mind to protect you. What does that mean? Okay, I didn't plan for this, so I'll just be quick. You know, in everyday life, when we do things, and sometimes we do things we know we're not supposed to, and we tell ourselves, oh, because that person is unfair to you, so you want to be you can scold that, you want to scold that person, you do things that you feel justified, or you how you say, you act as your own lawyer, you might steal something, and you try to justify it to yourself. Oh, maybe there's no owner, it has been left there 1 or 2 days, I should take it before someone else takes it. That false thinking mind, that mind that tries to fool yourself into doing the things you're not supposed to do or to protect yourself, it's not going to be there when you are in front of King Yama. So what happens is all the things that you have done, okay, apparently gets, for lack of a better word, gets projected up for everyone to see. So if you have done something, okay, and you know you've done something, and when you are still alive, you have not repented and reformed, you have not confessed your faults. Okay, confess is like a Catholic term. You confess your faults, meaning you're not taking responsibility for the things that you have done before. Why? Because you are ashamed. You are not ready for anyone to know. Something like that. Then, if you can't do it when you're alive, when you're in front of King Yama, and it is projected for yourself and everyone to see, all your shame will come forth, and that affects the state of your mind. And that is precisely the moment where you want your mind to be very calm. You don't want your mind to be affected by any negative emotion, because it has a bearing on your rebirth, on where you're going to go. So repentance and reform, if you can do it now, all right, for anything you've done before, you go in front of it. For example, if it's a precepts and you go in front of a monk and nun, and you admit your faults, and you vow that you try your best not to do it again. And if you do it right, okay, if you do it right, psychologically, what will happen is that you no longer cover it up. Then when someone brings it up, hey, didn't you do this, or accuses you of doing something, your response, instead of shame or anger or trying to conceal, some people resort to murder just to conceal their secrets. So it's a very bad thing. But if you repent and reform in the right way, in a wholesome way, when someone brings it up, that shameful thing that you had done before, that wrong thing, you act with coolness. You say, yes, yeah, I did that. I'm not proud of myself. I'm really ashamed of myself, but I am trying my best to atone for it or not to do it again. And, so instead of reacting with more negativity or unwholesomeness, you are perfectly cool. You're okay. So that's why repentance and reform is very important. Okay, so I've strayed off topic a bit. But do you know during Shufu's time, okay, some of you may know this, Shufu would ask, does anyone have anything they want to say? And people will come up in front of the Buddha hall, to the Buddha hall in the middle, in front of everyone, and they will repent, and in front of Shufu, and they will reform. And this is in front of everyone in the Buddha hall. Yeah. They also made vows also. Sometimes they made really great vows. But it's a way to move forward in your practice. Okay, repentance and reform is a really good way for you to move forward in your practice. If you find that you are still not ready to do it in front of a person, a monk or a nun, try doing it in front of the Buddhas or Guan Yin Pusa. You do baby steps, try that first. Okay, so that was off topic a bit. I wasn't planning for that, but coming back to King Yama. All right, so the Buddha says, therefore, I encourage people to light lamps and make banners to liberate beings and cultivate blessings so that they can overcome suffering and peril and forestall all disasters. What disasters? Your own disasters that you create for yourself, those disasters. So now we know, okay, if you've been with us, when the Buddha says we light lamps, lighting lamps is a metaphor for opening your wisdom through understanding the sutras, the Dharma, and putting it into practice. Okay, making banner, I'm not so sure what the metaphor is, but it means both. Okay, it means both literally lighting a lamp, making banners, as well as not to forget what that practice is supposed to mean. Okay, now we get to the yakshas. So you say at that time. So why I introduced King Yama is because if anyone has any question, at which time? Well, at that time when the Buddha spoke about King Yama. 12 great yaksha generals were present in the assembly. So for any one of you who are afraid of like spirits, yakshas are, very fearsome spirits. So these are the generals or the yakshas. It says these 12 great yaksha generals, each with a retinue of 7,000 yakshas, simultaneously raised their voices and addressed the Buddha, world-honored one. Today, by relying on the Buddha's vast power, we are able to hear the name of the world-honored one, medicine master Vaidurya like Tathagata. So all of you are the same. You just heard the Buddha's name. It says, as a result, we are no longer afraid of the lower destinies. All of us are of one mind to take refuge with the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha to the end of our lives. And there's no full stop. I think there should be a full stop. It says, and we vow to support all living beings and to benefit them so that they may live in peace and happiness. In whatever cities, villages, countries, etc., that this sutra circulates, or wherever people accept and uphold the name of medicine master Vaidurya like Tathagata and venerate and make offerings to him, we together with our retinues will guard and protect them, deliver them from all distress and fulfill all their wishes. Okay, you're talking about very fearsome spirits, the ones that you should be afraid of. They in turn become your Dharma protector. If a person wishes to dispel illnesses and difficulties, he should read or recite this sutra and tie a 5-colored thread into knots, forming the letters of our names. He should untie the knots when his wishes have been fulfilled. This practice we will discuss when we come to this part of the sutra in the future. Or actually, no, I've already prepared the slide, so let's do it now. Shifu says, this is a kind of mantric dharma. Mantras do not necessarily belong to the esoteric school. The practitioners of the esoteric school deliberately gave themselves such a name, making it seem as if they are very mysterious. Mantras are a kind of oath or vow, a kind of prayer. A 5-colored thread symbolizes the 5 directions, each of which has a demon associated with it. When the 5-colored thread is tied into knots, it brings stability to insecure places. All right. And Shofu says the Yaksha generals made a vow that anyone who spelled out their names with knots tied in a 5-colored thread would have his wishes fulfilled. Once that happens, he should untie the knots in order to release the spirits that were evoked. And Shofu gives a warning. He says, one should not be greedy and try to keep the Yaksha generals around after they have granted one's wish. All right. So anyone thinking of doing that? And then now we move to the Earth Store Bodhisattva Sutra. Okay, the Ti Chang Ching. And we talk about the protection of the Earth Spirit. Who is the Earth Spirit? There's a very interesting story. No, not story. It's actually a sutra where the Buddha explains to the monks. The Buddha said, oh, this Earth Spirit in the beginning says this Earth Spirit before he took refuge. Maybe it's a she, took refuge with me. This Earth Spirit thought that she was the only one, like the only supreme spirit in the world. And she thought that the earth element was the only supreme element in the world. And so the Buddha showed her that that was not the case, and she was very impressed, and then she took refuge with the Buddha, and this is how she became a Dharma protector. Okay, so we have a question. Isabella asks, are these threads all different colors or specific color? I think they are 5 different specific colors. Each thread is a different color. I know of a nun who supposedly showed people how to tie these threads before. And I did ask her if I could, make a video of her tying the threads, but she wasn't very cooperative. So I won't name the nun. So let me see if I can find someone who I can make a video and then we'll share it. Okay, because I have no idea how to do this practice. So I'll look around and I'll find out. Okay. All right. So Earth Spirit has a name called Firm and Solid. Spoke to the Buddha and said, well-honored one, as I regard the living beings of the present and future, I see those who make shrines of earth, stone, bamboo, or wood and set them in pure places in the southern part of their dwellings. They place within the shrines an image of Earth Store Bodhisattva, either carved, painted, or made of gold, silver, copper, or iron. They then burn incense and make offerings, worship, and praise him. By doing these things, they will receive 10 kinds of advantages and benefits. This reminds me when I first went to the city of 10,000 Buddhas, and there was a wood shop, a carpenter shop there with all the equipment. And in Malaysia, I never had the opportunity to work with wood before. And when I was at CDTB, with all these machines available to me, I discovered that I had a hidden talent, because I never knew I had it, of making things out of wood. And there have been quite a few things that I've made that I've been very, very proud, because, how you say, yeah, I'm just proud because they look good. And so one of the things that I made was a little shelf for the wall for my room at CDTB, with a 3D carved, not carved, but somewhat 3D motif of a lotus on the front. And I made a stand. I didn't have an image of Earth Store Bodhisattva, but after reading the sutra, I made a stand for the sutra itself. And I would light incense. But at that time, I did it because I was greedy. The sutra said, if you do something like that, you get certain things in return. that was why I did it. And I don't even remember if I got those things. Okay, anyway, the earth, what's her name again? Firm and solid, earth spirit, firm and solid, say if you do something like that, okay, and you burn incense and you make offerings, okay, you get 10 kinds of advantages. What are those 10 benefits? It says their lands will be fertile, their families and homes will be peaceful, their ancestors will be born in the heavens, they will have benefit and longevity in their present life, what they seek will be as they will, they will escape the disasters of water and fire, they will escape other calamities, their nightmares will cease, they will be protected by spirits in all their comings and goings, and they will encounter many causes of wisdom. Okay, some of this that we've just read have double meaning. You can take it at face value. Sometimes, because right view in Buddhism has to do with cause and effect, some of these things happen because of your sincerity. If you are able to have an altar to Earth Store Bodhisattva, then chances are you also understand how to practice. And some of it is a result of your practice. Some of it, no, some of it is a response because of your sincerity, that other beings help you. And then some, like for example, the disasters of water and fire may mean fire and floods, like currently what some people are experiencing, but it could also mean the disasters of water and fire at the end of the eon. I have those notes. Maybe we will come to that, not today, but in the future. Okay. All right. Going on. Well-honored one, living beings of the present and future will obtain these advantages and benefits if they can construct a place of worship and make offerings in their homes. So if you all are interested, you can set up a Earth Store Sutra, Earth Store Bodhisattva, not Earth Store Sutra, Earth Store Bodhisattva altar, or if you already have an altar, give him a place on the altar. It says, well-honored one, if good men or women in the future keep this sutra and an image of the Bodhisattva in their homes, and if in addition they recite the sutra and make offerings to the Bodhisattva, I shall use my spiritual powers to surround and protect them day and night, so that all threat of floods, fire, robbery, and theft, great calamities, and small accidents will be eradicated. Okay, so if you want to get the protection of the Earth Spirit, okay, this is what you can do. Oh, I just thought we usually, like for the Chinese, we like the Hokkien, there are some that that pray to Qigong, or Qigong is the sky. Is that sky spirit? I'm not quite sure. T is sky, but I'm not sure what the proper translation might be. Does anyone know anything about the Earth Spirit? If you do, you can unmute your mic or just type in the chat box. Okay, then so the Buddha praised the earth spirit. He said there are few spirits who can match the great spiritual power you possess. Why? All the lands in Jambudvipa receive your protection. All the grasses, wood, sand, stones, paddy fields, hemp, bamboo, reeds, grains, rice, anything you name it, even the like diamonds and gems, come forth from the ground because of your power. Moreover, your constant praise of the beneficial deeds of Earth Bodhisattva makes your meritorious virtues and spiritual penetrations hundreds of thousands of times those of ordinary earth spirits. So that's how great this earth spirit is. And then the Buddha said, if good men or women make offerings in the future to this Bodhisattva or recite or rely upon the Sutra or the past vows of Earth Bodhisattva in their cultivation, you should use your spiritual power to protect them and not allow disastrous or unwelcome affairs even to be heard, much less undergone by them. Not only will those people be protected by you, but Brahma, Shakra, and their retinues, as well as the retinues of all the other gods, shall also protect them. Why will they obtain protection from worthies and sages such as these? They obtain such great protection from having beheld and worshipped the image of Asta Bodhisattva and from having recited this sutra of his past vows. Okay, so not just you get the protection of the earth spirit. Okay, so we talked about the yakshas already. The yakshas are the fearsome spirits. Now you know you can get the protection of the earth spirit. Okay, and not just the earth spirit. The Buddha says that not only does the Buddha encourage the earth spirit to protect you, but the Buddha says that Brahma, Shakra, and their retinues. That means you get basically the whole heavens above you looking out for you. All right. Okay. There's a question. Was told that there should be only 1 or 3 Buddhas or Bodhisattvas on your home altar table. Who who told you that? Okay. There's no right or wrong. Oh.
Yes, I was informed.
Oh, okay. Who informed you? Okay, you don't have to answer. Okay. Nowhere in the sutra does the Buddha, restrict you. It's just a custom. Some people, they are just used to different ways of doing things. When they inform you of such things, you say, okay, thank you very much for your advice. I'll just do what my heart tells me. But there is some when you set up an altar, you don't want it too low. You don't want the images at the level of your waist. Definitely not below. You want it high. Okay. Most altars that are built at a chest or head height, that's really good. As long as it's practical, that means you can still like put your incense, or you can light a candle or turn on the lamp, place flowers. As to, for example, there's a way to put Amitabha Buddha in the middle. If you have an altar for the Pure Land, and then if I'm not mistaken, Kuan Yin Pusa goes on the right, and then Great Strength Bodhisattva goes on the left. Maybe, I'm not sure. Don't. There are people who know a lot better than I do for that. But there's no hard and fast rule. Okay, it doesn't mean that all these customs are not meant as rules that if you do it wrong, you will get punished. Okay, all these customs are not like that. I have a funny story. Okay, sometimes there are ceremonies and senior monks are invited. I won't mention any names, but there'll be senior monks invited, and I'm not a senior monk, but I'll be there observing. And usually, okay, you get 3 monks wearing the red robes. Okay, 3 monks wearing the red robes. And sometimes, if the organization doing the event doesn't have a large enough Buddha hall of their own, they might do it in a hotel or in a function room somewhere else. And then, because it's Chinese Buddhism, it's Mahayana Chinese Buddhism, there are a lot of ritualistic ways of doing things. You walk in a certain way, they invite you in, and then you bow. The three of the monks bow together, and then they light the incense, and then they offer the incense, and there's a certain way you hold the incense. These are customs and traditions that have been handed down for generations. Okay, so it's for some people it's very, very important that you follow the right way. Is, you know, if you do it wrong, it's there's nothing wrong if you do it wrong. It's kind of like you commit a social what's that word, FAUXPAU, can't even spell it, no wonder I can't pronounce it, faux pas. You know, you don't do the right thing in a social setting. Like when you see the queen, instead of curtsying, if you're a lady you bow, or, you know, and if you're a man, you know, you're supposed to shake her hand or something, but you don't take off your hat, you know, something like that. You just, so it's not, you don't commit an offense, you just didn't do it right. Okay, so no one invented all these things just to punish you if you do it wrong. Okay, it's just a way for order to happen and for things to be, the word is 庄严, to be at dawn. That's all. So my funny story is that sometimes the 3 monks in front don't really know what's going on, but they're senior monks. Why? Because, you know, it is done in that place for the first time, and, you know, it's just a custom, and different places have different customs. So I've seen before, and I chuckle to myself, the 3 monks will bow down, and then 1 monk will stand up, and then the other 2 monks are not sure what's going on. And the monk on the right can't see the monk on the far left, and he doesn't get up. And then the monk in the middle will look at the monk on the left standing up, and then he will turn to his right and look at the monk who is still bowing, and he's not sure whether he should stand up or not. And it's funny when you see this and you understand what's going on. Yeah, because you don't want to do the wrong thing because you're in front of everyone and you want to be harmonious. You don't want to create false thinking for people. But it's funny to see when this happens. So like I said, some different temples have different ways of doing things. All right. Okay. So now let's talk about the protection of ghost kings. All right. We are still in the Earth Stop Bodhisattva Sutra. And let me see what's the time. 10, 20. Okay. So at that time, for reading the Iron Ring Mountain, Lord Yama and his following of infinite ghost kings came before the Buddha. And then in the sutra, there's a whole list of all the different ghost kings. And they all have awesome and sometimes fearsome names like Evil Poison, Great Argument, White Tiger, Blood Tiger, Crimson Tiger. You know, they sound like medicine names, Chinese medicine names, lot of food, lot of calamities, etc. Okay, a lot of birth. And along with all these great ghost kings were hundreds of thousands of minor ghost kings. And they all live in our land, Jambudvipa, and they all control certain areas. Okay, so the spokesperson, who is called in this sutra, the ghost king Evil Poison, he said to the Buddha, he said, "Well honored one, we limitless ghost kings of Jambudvipa either benefit or harm beings. Each of us is different. Our karmic retribution causes us and our followers to roam in the world, doing much evil and little good. When we pass a household or a city, a town, village or hamlet, a garden, cottage or hut, where there is a man or woman who has cultivated as little as a hair's worth of good deeds, who has hung but one banner or one canopy, who has used a little incense or a few flowers as offerings to images of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas." Okay, before we go on, all right, Shufu says that the ghost king Evil Poison is an extremely fierce ghost king. Okay, he looks like he wants to swallow every living being that he sees. He has a mouth which is evil and poisonous, but Shufu says there is no need to be afraid of him. Because why? He only harms those who are evil and poisonous themselves. He uses evil to cure evil and poison to counteract poison. Shufu says if you recite the Buddha's name, or in other words, if you practice, you will gain the respect of this ghost king who will bow to you. So Ron's question is, what is the reason for reciting Amitabha's Buddha's name? Okay, while meditating. So Ron, this is one reason. Okay, if you recite the Buddha's name, you will gain the respect of this ghost king who will bow to you. Okay, how's that? It's not the only reason, but you know, it's a very good reason. Shiva says, as long as you can recite the Buddha's name, recite sutras, and keep your thoughts resolved on enlightenment. What is keep your thoughts resolved on enlightenment? Right intention, merit. Okay. Shiva says there will be no problems with this ghost king, since although he manifests an outwardly poisonous and evil appearance, inwardly he has the heart of a bodhisattva, just like King Yama. So Shifu says, if you practice the Dharma, you have nothing to fear from him. In fact, if any of my disciples, which is all of you, I hope, meet up with him, all you have to do is mention Shifu's name, Shifu said. Shifu says he has made an agreement with this ghost king, evil poison, that if any of us encounter him, he would take their offenses and give them all to, let me see, the ghost king should take all their offenses and give it to Shifu on your behalf. All right. So no need to worry if you practice. All right. If you practice. So the ghost king told the Buddha, he says, basically he says anyone who is doing any practice, it says all of the ghost kings will respect and revere that person as we would the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. They treat you like the Buddha, okay? He's not mincing his words. That's his exact words. They would treat you like the Buddha. He says, we will order all the smaller ghosts, each of whom has great power, as well as the ground spirits, to surround and protect that person. Bad affairs, accidents, severe and unexpected illnesses, as well as all other unwelcome phenomena will not be allowed to draw near his dwelling or place of residence, much less enter the door. And then the Buddha praised the ghost king, saying, excellent, excellent, that all of you ghost kings join Lord Yama in protecting good men and women in that way. I shall tell Lord Brahma and Lord Chakra to see that you are protected as well. So not only they can protect you, but they also need protection as well. So Lord Brahma and Lord Chakra, the Buddha will instruct them to protect all these ghost kings too. Okay, so how do we make sense of this? Well, think of it this way. Imagine if you has any of you taken care of puppies before? I remember when I was young, I was maybe, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 years old, and we had dogs, and one of the dogs had a litter of puppies. And puppies are just like children. They have different personalities. Some are just mean. Some will be aggressive towards other puppies. And sometimes there's one puppy who is always very gentle and, just very gentle, not forceful. And this puppy gets pushed by all the other puppies. So when it's time to eat, sometimes they find it difficult to get to their food, something like that. And you will find that it is there's a natural response to want to protect that puppy, that innocent little puppy who is not being naughty, who doesn't harm the other puppies. You just feel like you want to protect that puppy, kind of like that. All right. Okay. So protection of spirits, ghost kings, earth spirits, and yakshas. All right. And so the questions that you have about Dato Kong and, all those worshipping, should you all continue doing it? Well, if you're already doing it, you don't need to stop. You are paying your respects, and that's a good thing. But you have to understand that all this is trying to tell you that if you have taken refuge in the Buddha and you're practicing, the Buddha becomes your father. Okay, so imagine this. Think of it this way. Think of your father as the police chief. Okay, your father is the chief police of the whole country. So what happens is that all the other police officers respect your father, and naturally they will look out for you because you are the child of the police, or the police chief. What is that like? Well, when I was 14 years old, we were staying in a place called Shah Alam in Selangor, and the police chief of Singapore was my friend's father. And what he did when I went to his house to hang out with him was he would, at 14 years old, okay, he would take his father's car out and I would ride with him in his father's car. And once we were stopped by the police, they knew who he was. Okay, say, oh, he's the son of our police chief, of our boss. And they just, okay, go home, drive safe, don't get yourself into trouble. Yeah. All right. That's what happens when your father is the police chief. All right. So if you are the police chief, if you are the son or the daughter of the police chief, even the, how you say, like yakshas, the evil spirits, so-called evil spirits, all right? Evil on the outside, but inside they're the heart of a bodhisattva. Even them, gangsters, triads, they will respect the police. So it doesn't make sense if you were to try to seek the protection of the gangsters, of the triads, of the police superintendent, or the police lieutenant. When your father is a chief, it just means that you don't understand what's going on, right? And it also means you don't really respect or trust your father, right? Because if you do, then you would know that you don't need to do those kind of things. But when they come to your house, of course, you are nice to them. You're not arrogant. You don't say that, oh, because I'm the son of the police, I'm the daughter of the police chief, I can order you around. You don't do something like that. You're very nice. You are very respectful to them as a way to to respect your father as well. Just like that. Okay. So if you are practicing, all right, even just a bit, you're trying your best, but you can't really do a lot. And you have taken refuge, the Buddha you can consider the Buddha as your father. So you don't have to worry about all these other things. All right. All these other things that people in life are so worried about, they run from one temple to the other. When they hear, oh, this person or this temple is better, your prayers will be answered. They run to that temple instead. Sometimes they might change religions, this and that. You have nothing to worry about. You don't have to feel yourself with, I wouldn't say superstition, but all those other stories that float around that confuse people because they don't know what's going on. You don't have to worry about that at all. Okay. All right. So the question of pulling out weeds, I guess if you have a garden and you want to maintain your garden, fine, go ahead. Even for our DRBA temples, we only when we need to trim the limbs of trees, and usually the smaller trees we don't put up notices, but if it's a fairly large tree or it's a huge tree, definitely we'll put up a notice if we need to chop it down or we need to trim the limb for very good reason, then we do that. So when it comes to pruning a tree, like your fruit tree, those things that people usually do, the spirits are smart enough to know that, to know what's going on. Okay, like mowing your lawn and all that. It's only those trees that, that there are trees that people usually leave alone, and those trees then would have spirits who reside in those trees. Okay, all right. So, so Ron has a question. He said, what's the reason for reciting Amitabha Buddha's name while meditating? Let me see. I have some slides here. Okay, I'll quickly run through this before I get to the meditation part, because that has relevance. Right now, we're going to talk about death in the desire heavens. All right, because why? We've talked about the desire heavens before, and now we're going to end it with talking about death. Then we can move on to the next realm. So from the Lotus Sutra says in the 6 desire heavens there are the 5 signs of decay. The 3rd dhyana has a disaster of wind. Even if you make it to the heaven of neither thought nor no thought, it is not as good as going to the Pure Land and coming back again. What does that mean? It means that even from the desire heavens all the way up, you can find the best heaven in the world, in the Dharma realm, that you can go to it is still impermanent. You will still have rebirth waiting for you at the end of your existence. We won't go into detail now because we will go into, we will make sense of it in a few classes time. But for now, just have this. Basically, Shofu says that just like humans, okay, in the 5 desire happens, what happens when their lifespan is about to end? All right. This Shofu says you have to undergo retribution in accord with your karma because your karma is still waiting for you. Okay. You owe people money, you have done bad things, and you escape to some island that they don't know where you are. Eventually, you have to leave the island and they'll be waiting for you. All right. So what are the 5 marks of decay that you have to undergo? First, you have the flower garlands that you wear. Remember the story where that there was a heavenly king, heavenly god, and he had 500 wives, and the 500 wives were climbing the trees to collect the flowers for their husband, and one of them died, and she came down to earth, and she made a vow that she would want to be reborn back with her husband. She lived for 100 years, every day making. That's where the difference between merit and blessings come in. Okay, every day she made blessings. She would offer food to the monks, offer clothing, with the vow or with the intention or with the wish to accrue blessings to be reborn back in that very same heaven. Okay. Whereas if she had understood the Dharma, she would have made merit instead with a different intention so that she can actually get out of samsara, but she wasn't ready yet. Okay. And after 100 years as a human being, she died and her wish got granted. She was born by the side of her husband. The husband said, "Oh, where were you all morning? We were looking for you." And she said, "Oh, I died. I was reborn as a human, a woman, and I spent 99 years or 100 years making blessings so I could be reborn here." Yeah. So that's the difference between being born in heaven and here. Less than one morning there is 100 years on earth has gone by. Okay, so why I mentioned that? Well, because they wear flower garlands, and now you know where they get their flower garlands from. Okay, the clothes they wear get dirty. All right, we don't have to go into detail. Shofu says the clothes never get dirty at all. You don't have to do laundry. They just stay clean. Why? Because they're in heaven until your lifespan is up and you notice that your clothes get dirty. Then you know. All right. Then Shofu says the armpits perspire, then the entire body smells bad. Normally they smell really nice. They don't need perfume or cologne. And number 5, there's a typo. This 4 on your screen should be 5. They cannot sit still, meaning they get fidgety, they get uncomfortable. So when they sit, after a while, just like how it's been almost 1 hour, you've been listening, how many times have you been moving around in your sit? Trying to run away from discomfort, that happens to them. So they can't find a comfortable place for too long. Okay. And then Shofu says at just that moment, all of a sudden, the life of a heavenly being ends. Just like that, you die. If they're wholesome karma, then they will be reborn as wealthy and influential people. But if their evil karma ripens, they will fall into the 3 evil destinies, meaning they can become a hungry ghost, an animal, or a being in the hell realm. So Shofu says, so even if you become a god, you still have this kind of trouble. So how do you escape from this kind of trouble? Well, one way is meditation and making merit. So we're talking about the 8 precepts because you're all lay people. So the 8 precepts is hugely relevant. So this is from Nagarjuna on the 6 perfections. So in this Shastra or commentary, there's a question. Someone asked Nagarjuna, I said, why is it that on the 6 days of abstinence, one takes the 8 precepts and cultivates merit? So what happens here is this. If you want to, and it's highly recommended, and you're going to find out why, there are 6 days called the 6 fasting days or the 6 vegetarian days that you should, as a Buddhist, learn how to meditate. Okay, So you observe the 8 precepts on those 6 days. If you have taken the lay bodhisattva precepts, you have to do this. Why? Because it's to help you become a bodhisattva. So it's very, very useful. Okay. So the answer to why on these 6 days of abstinence is, it is on these days that evil ghosts pursue people desiring to steal their lives. They bring acute illnesses and calamitous ruination, and thus cause people misfortune. Therefore, the sages at the beginning of the Kalpa instructed people to observe days of abstinence. That means it's 6 vegetarian days. Cultivate good and do meritorious deeds to thereby avoid calamity and ruination. Okay? But that's not the only reason. If
Can
you have a... Yes?
Can I ask what are the 6 days of abstinence?
I have to find
Or
out.
the 6 vegetarian days?
Yes, the 6 vegetarian days. Can someone please type the
What
lunar
are those
days?
days?
While I continue talking?
Okay, thank
I
you.
should know. Yeah. But for someone like me, I observe it every day. so as a monk, we do it every day. So I'm sorry, I don't pay attention. Ever since I've been at CDTB and I realized that I was doing it every day, I never paid attention to those days. But I will find out for you, okay, before the class ends, or if someone else can help, please. Okay. So there's another reason, okay, and the reason is the gods come and take a record of what you do on these 6 days, but it's just going to come. So the Nagarjuna says, at that time, the abstinence Dharma did not involve taking these 8 precepts. It only took going 1 day without food as constituting abstinence. Later, so he's talking about the ancient practice before the Buddha came about, okay? So they just fasted. And it says, later when the Buddha came forth into the world, he instructed people saying, in the manner of the Buddha, you should uphold the 8 precepts for 1 day and 1 night, while also refraining from eating after midday. This merit will take a person forth to nirvana. Okay, merit. So you have to have the right mindset. Okay, it doesn't mean you do it. You know, you will get the benefits. You have to understand how to use your heart when you do it. Okay, so Ron says the 6 vegetarian days are the 14, Ron and Melinda, 14, 15, 18, 23rd, 29, and 30th of the lunar month. Okay. 8, 14, 15, 23rd, 29, and the 30th. Okay. All right. So going on, according to what the Buddha said in the Sutra of the 4 Heavenly Kings, on those 6 monthly abstinent days, the retainers, princes, and the 4 Heavenly Kings themselves descend, observe, and investigate the status of beings giving maintenance of the precepts and filial piety towards their fathers and mothers. So this is another reason the Buddha explained that basically everything that you do, we have gone through this before as well, everything that you do, there's a spirit that records everything, and then the heavenly beings will come down on these 6 days and they collect all these reports about what you have done. Okay. And in an instance where it is deficient, okay, if they find that living beings are not behaving themselves, when they go back to the Triumph Trimsha heaven, they tell Lord Chakra, and when Lord Chakra and the other gods find out, they get very sad. They say, oh my God, the Asuras will increase. Asuras are beings that love to fight, and the gods will diminish. But if you do good, okay, then the gods are happy. And he says one gains an increased amount of merit. Additionally, on these 6 days, evil ghosts bring harm to people and strive to visit affliction and confusion upon everyone. If in the open country, village, prefecture, basically wherever you are, there's a person who observes the days of abstinence, takes the precepts, and practices goodness. Because of this, the evil ghosts depart far away, and the place in which one dwells become peaceful and secure. So you're helping your area, you're helping your household. And the Buddha says, for this reason, if one observes the abstinence and takes the precepts on these 6 days, one thereby gains increased merit. Okay. So let me see. So it's on the, it's not the 18, it's the 8. Okay, 18 is not a day, a vegetarian day. The 8 is a vegetarian day. So it's the 8, 14, 15, 23rd, 29, and 30th. And if you want to find out more, is I think it's Sue says it's in the Earth Store Sutra. Yeah. Okay. Some of you might have a question. It says, why do ghosts and spirits take advantage of these 6 days to visit, to harm people? Okay, because someone did ask Venerable Nagarjuna. And his response, so I'm including this because I thought you guys might, you all might find it interesting. The answer is, in the Sutra of the Origins of Heaven and Earth, it states that when this Kalpa first began, there was a different Brahma deity's son who was the father of the ghosts and spirits. He cultivated a form of brahmacharya ascetic practice whereby for a full 12 heavenly years, if you equate that to human years, that's a very long time. It says on the occasion of these 6 days, he cut away portions of his own flesh, drew off a measure of his own blood, and then placed them in a fire. It was on account of this that the evil ghosts and spirits would suddenly come into possession of particularly strong powers on these 6 days. Okay. Then there's a question. It says, because, when you get answers like this, it just confuses you more, right? So the person can't help but ask another question. It says, why on these 6 days did the father of the ghosts and spirits cut away the flesh and blood of his body, placing them into a fire? I mean, that's a really good question. So the answer is, among all of the ghosts and spirits, the Maheshwara spirit, probably that's the name of the spirit, is the biggest and the most primary in status. All of the spirits have an allotted number of days. Maheshwara has an allotment of 4 days out of each month, the 8th, the 23rd, the 14th, and the 29th. Does that sound familiar? Yes. The other spirits have an allotment of 2 days out of each month. The first day out of the month is the 16th, and their second day out of the month is the 17th. The 15th and the 30th belong collectively to all spirits. Then it says, because Maheshwara is the lord of all the spirits, and because he has been allotted the most days, his 4 days came to be counted as abstinent days. Then the other 2 days, also counted as abstinent days, are the days belonging collectively to all the spirits. Hence, all of the ghosts and spirits suddenly possess strong powers on these 6 days. You know how he answers? Like, it makes perfect sense, but it just gives rise to more questions. And it says, furthermore, after the father of ghosts and spirits had continued for 12 years his practice of cutting away his flesh, drawing off his blood, and placing them in the fire, the king of gods descended and asked his son, what prayer do you seek to fulfill by doing this? Okay, finally, his father had enough and asked his son, what are you trying to do? And then Maheshwara replied, I seek to have sons. Then his father, the king of gods, said, it is the offering method of the rishis to employ the burning of incense, the offering up of sweet fruits, and the carrying out of all manner of pure endeavors. Why do you employ this method of placing flesh and blood into fire, a method associated with offensive and evil dharmas? Your destruction of the dharma of goodness and your taking pleasure in carrying out evil endeavors will cause you to give birth to evil sons who feast on flesh and drink blood. So anyone who's a father and has had difficult children will probably understand the stress that this king of gods is going through. Basically asking the son, what are you trying to do? What's wrong with you? Okay. Then the Nagarjuna explains, it says, then in accordance with his proclamation, 8 huge ghosts came forth at that very moment from within the fire. Their bodies were as black as ink. Their hair was yellow, their eyes were red, and they shone with abundant light. Then all manner of ghosts and spirits were subsequently born from these 8 ghosts. Thus it was that this practice of cutting off his own flesh, drawing his own blood, placing them into the fire, result in the generation of such power. Then Nagarjuna concludes by saying, as for the Dharma of the Buddha, though, these days are devoid of any particular auspiciousness or adversity. But nonetheless, as an adaptation to the world's treatment of these as inauspicious days, one is instructed to observe the abstinences and take the 8 precepts on these days. So basically, at the end of the day, Nagarjuna explains that, these 6 days are just like any other day. But because human beings are superstitious and you tell them that, this is how it all came about, and on these 6 days, you better pay attention to yourself. And, you should, if you're afraid and you want to, or you just want to create more merit, then, at least do it on these 6 days. So this is very, very similar to the Taoists, who on the 1st and the 15th, they are vegetarians, like my grandmother before. My grandmother on the 1st and 15th were vegetarian, and in order to be pure, her cooking wok on the 1st and 15th was a very special wok, because when it was bought new, every time it was used, no garlic, onions, meat, fish, would be cooked in the wok. So the wok was considered pure. You would use, I think she had a special set of chopsticks and spoons and bowls and plates as well that was pure. But in Buddhism, okay, pureness depends on the things that you do, and most importantly, your intentions. So in the spirit of Nagarjuna, you don't have to resort to the 6 special days, or you don't have to resort to using a special wok, special cooking utensils that you try your best to keep pure. But in Buddhism, you maintain purity through your heart. Okay. All right. So coming to Ron's question on why we should recite Amitabha Buddha while meditating, it is because it is one of the easiest ways to meditate, Ron. For example, I won't go into detail, but the Huato method is described as for people who have a lot of blessings. In other words, you must first have the mental aptitude to be able to sit down and not be drawn or attached to what goes on in life to distract you from the Huato. If you have to think about what to eat for dinner, what to buy, to go shopping, to go grocery shopping, appointments to keep, bills to pay, things like that, guests who are coming to your house, or friends you have to meet up, it's really, really difficult to maintain the Huato method or to meditate. Whereas reciting the Buddha's name is something you can do all the time. When you're eating, you can recite the Buddha's name. When you are taking a shower, you can recite the Buddha's name. And then finally, when you are really to sit down seriously and isolate yourself a bit more, you can still recite the Buddha's name. And the whole day long, you've been laying the foundation by reciting the Buddha's name already. So reciting the Buddha's name is a very easy way to meditate. Even in the Theravada tradition, they recite Buddho as well. So if you are practicing the Pure Land, then reciting the Buddha's name, meaning you recite Amitabha's name, is an excellent way for you to plant the karmic seeds to be reborn in the Pure Land. And why do we want to be reborn in the Pure Land? When we finish our next 2 classes on the drawbacks of being reborn in the heavens, you will understand why the Pure Land is recommended. Okay. Ron, you have a question?
Yes, just to follow on to reciting the Buddha's name during meditation. So what's the difference between reciting the Buddha's name, as something that we do. I mean, that we should be doing, throughout the day. And when we're meditating, I don't see any difference.
There is no difference if you are able to apply your mind equally. But
Okay.
usually there's a difference because throughout the day you're doing something else. So when you recite, you are reciting so that you're not false thinking too much. But when you are able to sit, for example, and how you say, I wouldn't say really meditate, but that form of practice, then you can use Amitabha's name to really concentrate your mind. So you're applying your mind in a different way. But if you can apply your mind in the same way throughout the whole day, then I mean that's really excellent if you can do that. But sometimes it's not really advisable. When you're driving, you want to be alert as well. You don't want to be too oblivious to your surroundings. Okay. Okay, Sue has a question. To be attached to those 6 days, are we not become attached? Our intention is not wholesome. No, just because, for example, desire, okay, desire, there is wholesome desire and unwholesome desire. What is wholesome desire? Wholesome desire is right intention. So for some people, they like to recite the Buddha's name. They have a desire to do that. They have a desire to recite the sutras, to join, like all of you right now, to join online and listen. Those are wholesome desires. Because why are they wholesome desires? Because you have wholesome intentions. So it's go back to intention. Okay, so it doesn't mean you're attached, means your intention, it becomes unwholesome. Right intention is already, remember I've been repeating what's right intention. The first one is renunciation or getting rid of attachment, right? So automatically, you should understand that means attachment to unwholesome desires. Okay. All right. Sharon says in the Earth Source Sutra, it is 10 vegetarian days. Yeah, like I said, when I was at CDTB, every day was a vegetarian day. So you don't have to worry about whether is it the 6th or the 8th or the 19th or the 21st. If you're really sincere, just do it every day. Then you don't, one less thing or 6 less things to worry about, right? Wouldn't that be better? Okay, then I know there's another question from Carrie. You have taken refuge and one precept during that period. This is the first time I've actually, if that's you, heard about someone taking refuge and only one of the precepts, but that's really good. Some people take refuge and they don't take the precepts. So how do we do it if we decide to take 2 or more precepts in later years? Well, if there's an official precept ceremony like what Ten Pian just had a few weeks ago, you could join. If not, you can go to the monk and nun and seek to take the precepts, but it would be better if it's if there's an official ceremony going on, that would be best. In the meantime, you don't have to wait for the ceremony to observe the precepts. Okay, and try to observe all the 5 precepts. Okay, if you can only commit to a few, that's good. But the remainder, you can treat the remainder as a try my best kind of thing. I know I may not be able to do it, but I will try my best and to hold it as much as I can. All right. Then when the time comes, you might find yourself, just it'll be natural and you don't have to worry about it anymore. Just like instead of worrying about the 6 days, when to hold this or that, just hold it every day. Then, doesn't that make perfect sense? Hold it every day. You may not eat one meal. You may not eat after noon every day. So, okay, that maybe you keep it for the 6 days because that might be really hard. But you could recite the Buddha's name every day, right? Those things you could do. Okay. All right. It's time to, it's more than time. Sorry for taking so long. Let me find the slide. Any further questions that you can ask, but I'll keep for next week? Oh, okay, hold on. Let me see. Oh, I just lost. Sorry, my PowerPoint shut down. So, okay, now I have it. Okay, I'm going to put my palms together. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, let's do 3 bows to the Buddha and then to Shufu. Let me, okay. All right, first bow. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Rainbow Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay, everyone, we'll see you next week. Amitabha.
Thank you, Dharma Master.
Thank you, Dharma Master. Good night.
Amitabha.